Hi, I'm Dr. Russ, and this is Unit 3, How Can I Find Information? In Unit 2, you picked a topic for your paper. In this unit, we're going to learn how to search the library and online to find information for your paper. So let's get started. In this video, we're going to learn about search terms and how to use them to look for information. We'll learn how to explore books that we find in the library for information. We'll learn how to use citations and references to find even more information. We'll learn how to search for resources online. And we'll learn about using the Google Scholar to help find resources online. And then finally, we'll talk about the assignment. So the goal for this unit is to use catalogs and search engines to find sources and libraries on the internet. Let's revisit one of the characteristics of academic writing, and that is when we make a claim, then we must support it with evidence. Because if we don't support our claims, our readers will ask questions like, well, how do you know that? And well, what evidence do you have that that is true? Or why should I believe you? We have to search for good evidence to support our claims. And to do this, we use short phrases called search terms. So let's learn some more about search terms. These short phrases called search terms are something you can use to find hard copy sources in a library or soft copy sources online. And throughout this course, when we use the term sources, we mean books, magazines, reports, charts, news articles, maps, brochures, videos, documents, anything that we might use as a source of information in our papers. Let's start by exploring books that we find in a library. One of the places that you can find search terms is in a book's table of contents. The table of contents is usually at the front of the book, and it has the titles of the chapters and sections in the book, along with the page number where they start. In this example, we're looking at a table of contents out of a guidance counseling book. And some possible search terms that we see in the table of contents are career planning, disabilities, public education, cultural diversity, and minority youth. Another place that we can find search terms in a book is in the index. Usually the index is in the back of the book, and it has topics listed alphabetically, followed by the page number where you can find each topic. In this guidance counseling book, some possible search terms are discipline, cultural competence, rigorous curriculum, teacher expectation, reform programs, accessibility, formative assessment, and summative assessment. You can also find search terms right in the text of a book if you flip through the pages. One place that you might find search terms is in headings within the book. Generally, authors put important terms in bold or italics within the text, so you can look for those. And often, but not always, bulleted lists, like the one circled here, or numbered lists, have important search terms in them too. Now let's talk about citations and references. A citation is a thing you find in the text that mentions another source that author used. A citation may contain the author, date, or page number. So in this paragraph out of the guidance counseling textbook, we see 3 citations: Bundy and Poppin from 1986, Cecil and Copia from 1990, and ASCA from 2005. And here's how citations work. Each citation points to a reference in the references section or bibliography, usually in the back of a book, but sometimes at the end of a chapter. So in the example paragraph we looked at before, let's take Cecil and Cobia, 1990. If we look down through the references, we see one beginning with Cecil J.H. and Cobia D.C., 1990. That's the reference that goes with the citation in the text. So what do we do with these references? A reference has all the information you need to go find the book or article or whatever that author used when they were writing. In the example reference from this video, we see it contains the authors, the year, the chapter title, the book editor, the book title, the page numbers, and the publisher. So we know that Cecil and Cobia was a book. Now, references are formatted slightly different depending upon whether it's a book or a journal article or a web page. It has whatever information in it will make it most easy for you to go out and find that source. So note that they're not all laid out exactly like what you see in this example. Now let's talk about searching for resources online using your computer or your cell phone or an iPad. For academic writing, we really prefer online resources. Books are very good for learning. That's why we have textbooks in school. But they're not good for academic writing for several reasons. First of all, they are what's called a secondary source. That means the author mentions something that somebody else wrote about. What we want to do is actually read what that somebody else wrote, which is a primary source. Books are not peer-reviewed. They may be reviewed by a set of editors at the publishing company, but they're not peer-reviewed. A peer review team is a group of experts that check the book to make sure that it is complete, correct, accurate, and so forth. And books become outdated over time. Important internet resources are usually kept up to date. And we use an application called a search engine to find information online. A search engine is a kind of an application that knows what sources are online, and it can go get those sources for you. So in some ways, it makes it easier than going through a library. So how does a search engine work? A search engine works very much like an index in a book. Here in this example, we see part of an index on the left. And the search term blind faith is circled. and the page numbers 17 and 18 are circled. When we go to pages 17 and 18, we can find the word blind faith on that page. Well, a search engine works the same way. In this example, we're looking at the Google Scholar search engine. We type our search term, blind faith, into the search box and press the blue magnifying glass button. And Google Scholar goes out and finds articles on blind faith and shows them to us. And all we need to do is click on the title of the source, and the search engine will go get it and let us read it online or download it. Now, here's a very important thing to know about using search engines. You may have watched some science fiction movies where people go to a computer and they just talk to it in English. But we don't want to use ordinary English when interacting with a search engine. For example, if this was one of those movies, we might say something like, "Tell me everything you know about government corruption in Liberia." But let's look at what the search engine actually sees when we type things in. The search engine throws out small words like me and you and about. And so what it actually sees is everything, no government, Liberia. And here's what the search engine does with that. It basically says that it thinks you said, find me every article with the words everything and no and government and corruption and Liberia in it. But this is not good because it will get you too many things. It will actually get you things with the words everything and no in it that you don't want. You only want things that have government and corruption and Liberia in it. So what you do about that? Tell the search engine only what you want. Government, corruption, Liberia. You may remember that we said academic writing is concise. Well, search engines like it when you're concise too. So try to tell the search engine what you want in as few words as possible. So what types of search engines are there? First of all, there are general purpose search engines. They go out and find any source that's online, no matter what it is. Two examples are Google and Bing. Another type of search engine, which is what we're interested in, is an academic search engine. It finds sources that are themselves academic writing. Two examples are Google Scholar and ResearchGate. And we're going to be looking at Google Scholar a lot in this course. We're also interested in some special purpose search engines. These are search engines that only find sources in subject areas, such as education or business or medicine. And two examples are ERIC, which is a search engine for education, and EBSCO. Some other special purpose search engines are what are called open access databases. Much of the academic writing on the internet is unfortunately not available for free. You have to pay somewhere between like $12 and $30 USD to get them. But anything that's in an open access database is free for you if you're a student. So they're very good to use. Some open access databases require you to create a user ID and password to log in, but they still don't charge you anything. You just have to log in before you use them. And there is a list of about 24 open access databases that you can use in this unit's readings. So look at that list and see what subject areas each one supports. What if you're having trouble with your search terms? What if you really don't know which terms to use? Or suppose your search terms are giving you too much information or too little information. Many search engines have a thing called a thesaurus. And a thesaurus is a list of either synonyms, which are other words that mean the same thing as the one that we're using, or it can have related terms that are broader than the terms we're using, or related terms that are narrower than terms that we're using. So here's an example from the ERIC, Special Purpose Search Engine for Education. The person typed in the word project, and the synonyms that it brought up are listed below. And this person decided they were most interested in getting more information about science projects and student projects as opposed to pilot projects. So in future searches, they're going to use the search terms science projects and student projects rather than just project. So to summarize, where can you find search terms? We already saw in books that you can find them in the index, at the back, the table of contents in the front, the glossary, which is sort of like a dictionary and it's usually at the back, or in things in text that are in bold or italics. Earlier in the course, we looked at an example article out of the Wikipedia. These articles have many parts, and you can find search terms in the contents area, the headings area, in bold or italics text in the article, in hot links, in blue in the article, and also in a See Also section near the bottom of the article. Any web page that you go to could have search terms in the headings, bold or italics text, hot links, menus, and buttons. And finally, files that you download from the internet, such as maybe a PDF file or a Microsoft Word document, could have search terms in the index, the glossary, the table of contents, bold or italics text, and hot links. Now let's look at this week's assignment. The assignment is explain search criteria used and describe the results received. Okay, let's break that down. So here's what we're going to do this week. We're going to do something, and we'll see what that is in a minute. We're going to think about what happened when we did that, and then we're going to write about it. We're going to talk about what we did, what happened, and what you'll do differently this time. So you won't be writing right away. You're going to be doing something and then thinking about something, and then you're going to write about it. So the first thing you're going to do is go over to the LICC library and look for books related to your topic. And remember to go back and look at the Exploring Library Books section in this video or in the lecture notes. Find search terms in 1 to 3 books and write down the search terms that you found. Next, you're going to use the Google Scholar to look for soft copy sources on the internet. Follow the instructions in the Google Scholar Quick Reference. Find search terms in 3 or more sources and write down the search terms that you found. Finally, choose one of the open access databases in that listing of 24 open access databases and use it to find one or more source. Once you've found search terms in the library, in Google Scholar, in one of the open access databases, think about the different things that you can use to find search terms, the index, headings, so forth. Which things gave you the most search terms? Was it headings? Was it the index? Was it bold italics text? And which ones did not give you many search terms? Next, think about the 3 places you looked: the LICC library, the Google Scholar, or the open access database that you picked. Again, which one of these 3 things gave you the most search terms? And which ones did not give you many search terms? Now, after you've done all this looking and thinking, it's time to write about your experience. You'll notice that, like all academic writing, you're going to write a paper with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. In the introduction paragraph, explain the purpose of this assignment. What were you trying to do and why? In the first body paragraph, state the topic you chose in Unit 2, the places you looked, and the search terms you found. And there's an example in the longer directions. In the second body paragraph, describe the things that gave you the most search terms, the index, headings, bold text, etc. And describe the things that gave you the fewest search terms. In the third body paragraph, describe the places, that is the LICC library, the Google Scholar, or the open access database you chose, that gave you the most search terms. And describe the places that gave you the fewest search terms. Then it's time to write your conclusion paragraph. Take a moment to think about everything that you've done in this unit, and then write the conclusion paragraph that answers these questions. When you look for search terms in the future, are there things that you will be sure to do again? That is, are they things that worked really well for you and gave you lots of search terms, and you want to make sure that you do that again? What are they? For example, did you have a favorite open access database? Was there a type of source like a book or a journal article that you liked better? Why will you use these things again? Also, are there things that you will do differently because you didn't have much success doing it that way this time? What are these things? And why are you going to do it differently? Finally, submit your assignment to your instructor. Now, remember, this is a paper. So we expect to have complete sentences and things. Just don't list a database name and nothing else. Be sure to look at the example and the detailed instructions. So, how will I be evaluated on this paper? First, the introduction needs to state the purpose of the paper. You need to state the topic chosen in Unit 2, the places searched, and the search terms found. You need to describe which things gave you the most and the fewest search terms. You need to describe the places that gave the most and fewest search terms. The conclusion needs to describe how you plan to find search terms in the future and explain why. And remember, that will include both things that you did that worked well, that you want to do again, and things that you want to do differently. So this is academic writing. The paper has to have an introduction paragraph, one or more body paragraphs, and a conclusion paragraph. It needs to follow principles of good scholarly writing, and it needs to be submitted by the due date.